For the past year, I've had dreams besides streaming to achieve and to pursue, and they're big, big dreams. I have dreams one day to become a fashion designer and start my own clothing brand. I have dreams to not only act, but direct and write my own short film and movies.
The year had barely moved, and yet somehow Cenat had already managed to make the internet act like rent was due. Not because he started another month of nonstop chaos, not because he hosted a celebrity, not because he broke a record, but because he did the one thing that makes people online lose all function. He went quiet, no going live, no loud clips flooding timelines, no daily proof of life for the people who treat a Twitch notification like oxygen. And in the space that silence created, the internet did what it always does. It started filling in the blanks with its own stories, its own fear, its own nonsense, and its own agenda. Then Kai came back with a video that poured gasoline on every assumption at once. A clean, dramatic title, I Quit. A title that sounds like a final door slam, but the moment you actually listen, it becomes clear that the thing Kai is quitting is not a platform. It is a version of himself that he is tired of living inside.
For the past few weeks, I have been uploading videos to my secret channel this entire time. And if you guys want to see what have been going on, click the top link in the description. It's called Kai's Mind.
He opens like somebody who has been sitting with his thoughts for a while. And whether you think that is genuine or just good presentation, the message is consistent. He talks about self-reflection. He talks about stepping back and looking at life from a wider angle. He talks like he is trying to convince himself that there is more than what people see on camera, more than what the audience demands from him, more than the lane he has been rewarded for staying in. He says there is more to the world than himself. He says the energy and passion to create more is inside him. And then he lands the line, "That is why I quit," not as a goodbye, but as a pivot. And he clarifies it immediately. He is quitting the habit of only thinking about goals and never chasing them.
I quit me, I quit the old Kai. Facts. Yeah, I mean, understand. That does not mean I quit streaming. He didn't say I quit streaming.
He is quitting the fear of stepping out of the box he is known for. He is quitting overthinking. He is quitting staying trapped in his own head, wondering if what he wants to do will work, wondering if people will accept it, wondering if he should even try. He says he wants to push limits and see how much he can truly create in life. That is the core of his framing, and it is important because it explains why the word quit is so misleading when people only read the title and start posting takes like they were in the room with him. Then the real story starts to show itself, because the whole reason he has been away is not a mystery project or some vague personal break. It is fashion. It is process. It is a brand he is trying to build in a way that feels real to him.
Bro, this new I Quit Cenat video has to be the most inspiring, wholesome, genuine piece of content we've all ever seen. This dude's not just the now, he's also the future. From talking to his mom and asking for genuine advice from somebody that only matters, like his mom's been there from the start, to expressing his current mental state and goals that he wants to pursue and literally show you as he's doing it. Bro, Cenat is just as human as me. Not only that, he touches up on his mental state and that he's not sad or depressed. He's just overthinking a lot of things. So his clothing brand's official name is Vivette, and it hasn't really launched yet, but the website is up. Bro, just like streaming, there's no doubt in my mind that Cenat's gonna be the biggest fashionist, if not bigger than Virgil.
He shows himself in Italy, and he makes it clear he has been there working, learning, absorbing, not just sightseeing. He describes why being there matters, because he understands how people treat new brands. He knows that when a brand is on the come up, everybody becomes a critic. People pick out flaws, they point out what is missing. They tell you where you messed up. But when a brand is already established, it becomes official in people's minds, and they stop questioning it the same way. He is basically saying he wants to do this properly, with the right environment, with the right learning, with the right seriousness, so that when he presents it, it feels like a complete statement and not a quick cash grab. He is not pretending to be an expert either, and that is where the video gets interesting, because it shows a streamer stepping into a world that has no reason to care about his fame. He is around tools, fabrics, factories, and people who actually do this. He talks about wanting to learn fabric, where it comes from, how it works, and he says he does not want to jump into designs before he understands the foundation. He tries things that look intimidating and reacts with real caution. He shows respect for the craft in the way he talks about it, and he keeps returning to the idea that he wants an attachment to his clothes. Not just a logo, not just his name stamped on something, but the feeling that he understands it and that he earned it. He traces some of that passion back to Japan, saying that being there enhanced his love for clothes, bags, accessories, outfits, the whole culture of dressing with intention. He says he is boxed into being a streamer, and this is one of the first times he is displaying something outside of that primary category. He says it plainly, he has a true passion for something besides content creation, and he wants to pursue it without treating it like a side quest. That is the tension running under everything, because he knows the internet wants him to be one thing forever, and he is trying to prove to himself that he can be more than what he is known for. Then he gets vulnerable, and this is where you can either respect it or roll your eyes, depending on how cynical you are, but the honesty is consistent. He says he has achieved so much, knocked down goals, and still struggles with self-doubt. He clarifies he is not depressed, not sad, but he is dealing with self-doubt because he is stepping away from what he is primarily known for. He asks for advice on how to deal with that voice in your head that says it is over, that says you might not be able to do it, that says you should stay safe in the lane that made you successful. And the response he gets is the kind of simple truth that people forget when they are comfortable. You cannot let your mental take over. When those voices come, they push you either to give up or keep going. The way this lands in the video is important because it frames the entire break from streaming as a mental and emotional challenge, not just a scheduling change. The video keeps moving through process, and it is almost like he is trying to show the audience that fashion is not just mood boards. He shows parts of shoe creation and sampling, seeing an idea become a physical object, learning how you can make a sample and then take it to a larger factory to produce quantity. He is watching the system from the inside, and he reacts with that mix of amazement and disbelief, like somebody who thought it would be simpler than it is. He sees how long things take, how much patience is required, how much precision is demanded, and he repeats that patience is a major lesson because you cannot just rush out and make something good. Denim becomes a big example of that patience. He says the denim process is long, longer than he expected, and he shows himself learning how careful you have to be. He is told to go slow. He notices mistakes. He asks if something is bad. He is taught that consistency matters, that a pattern has to be consistent, that this is not a game of vibes. These moments are important because they show him being corrected, and the fact that he leaves those moments in the video supports his claim that he wants people to see the real process, including the imperfect parts. He also describes the working environment in Italy like it is intense, almost chaotic, but productive. He talks about having a studio there, everybody designing, everybody locked in, and he says it is the best way to work. He is already thinking about how to recreate that back home, talking about getting a studio in Atlanta, possibly converting a house or getting a warehouse, building a space where he can fully indulge in design and bring in designers in America to balance the team he already has in Italy. That is a serious statement because it shows long-term commitment, not a one-week hobby. One of the strongest parts of his message is that he does not want a perfect brand image. He says when people look at brands, they perceive them as perfect because the brand makes it look easy, but he wants people to see everything. He wants them to see him fail, see him achieve, see him doubt, see him overcome it. He wants the journey to be visible. He wants the process to be part of the product. And that ties directly into his journal idea because he frames the journal as more than sketches, more than denim, more than designs. He frames it as meaning. He frames it as a hub for creators, a place where people can see ideas turn into reality and feel inspired to do the same in their own lane. He also includes practical advice he receives about building a brand, and this is one of the most grounded parts of the whole thing. Know who your client is. Do not try to do too many things at once. Start small and do the thing you do best, because that is how people understand your point of view, and that is how brands grow from a simple entry product into a full identity. He is told to take his time and be still, to turn off the noise, to step away from what is easy, to put himself in a vulnerable position where he can learn from people who do this for real. That advice matters because it explains why he stopped streaming in the first place, because in his mind, stepping away was the being still moment. Then he reveals the name that anchors the whole philosophy, vivit. He says it connects to the idea of living forever, and he adds a deeper meaning, not being boxed into what society wants to box you into. That is his mission statement in one word. And it explains the title again because the thing he is quitting is the box. The version of himself that only exists to feed a stream schedule, the fear that keeps him stuck, the overthinking that stops him from presenting the work. And just when the video could end on pure inspiration, he does what creators always do, he directs traffic. He tells people he has been uploading to a secret channel called Kai's Mind, and he points to a private page where people can see what he has been working on, which is the most honest way to end a video like this because it reminds you that even a personal pivot is still content, still audience management, still storytelling. My opinion is that this is not a fake moment, but it is also not a pure moment. It is both. It is a real shift packaged in a way that maximizes attention. And whether you respect that or not, the truth is simple. Kai did not quit streaming the way the title makes you think. He quit being only a streamer, and he is asking the internet to let him grow without turning that growth into a joke. The moment Kai uploaded that video, the internet did what it always does best when it smells uncertainty. It panicked, it exaggerated, it argued with itself, and then it picked sides without even agreeing on what the sides were. Because the title did exactly what titles like that are designed to do. It made people feel something before they understood anything. I quit is not a neutral statement on the internet. It reads like an ending. It reads like betrayal to fans who build routines around streams. It reads like validation to critics who have been waiting to say he fell off. And it reads like a challenge to every commentary channel that survives. Off-turning creator moves into moral debates. That is why this never stayed a quiet personal pivot. It could not. The moment the title hit timelines, the narrative stopped belonging to Kai alone. This is where FameFeed's angle becomes important, because he does not approach the situation with sympathy first or outrage first. He approaches it with disbelief. He opens by treating the entire situation like a spectacle, framing it as a massive day for people who live online, the type of people who treat a streamer's schedule like a public service. That framing is not accidental. It immediately tells you what kind of audience reaction he is about to dissect. People who do not just watch content, but emotionally depend on it. People who confuse access with entitlement. And when Kai stopped going live, even temporarily, that entitlement turned into suspicion, resentment, and chaos. FameFeed boils the situation down brutally fast. Kai stopped streaming. Kai went to Italy. Kai worked on a clothing brand. Everything else is decoration. That is the core reality. And by simplifying it like that, he exposes how much of the drama is manufactured by framing rather than facts. He points out that Kai had not been live for a while, even before the video, which already tells you this was not some sudden emotional breakdown. It was planned. It was intentional. It was part of a transition. But the internet does not reward calm transitions. It rewards shock. So the shock is what stuck. Then FameFeed does something important. He does not immediately defend Kai, and he does not immediately attack him. He walks through the rollout, the sketches, the journal, the interactive website, the branding. He jokes about it. He downplays it. He calls it dramatic. But he also acknowledges that the execution is not lazy. He acknowledges that effort went into it, and that tension sits at the heart of his commentary. Because the question is not whether Kai worked hard. The question is whether the presentation justifies the reaction it triggered. And in FameFeed's view, the answer is complicated. Where the internet really lost control of the conversation was not even the fashion part. It was the self-improvement arc, the reading clips, the vocabulary lookups.
Spontaneous. How do I pronounce that? Oftentimes when I don't know what a word is pronounced, I get to look at how it's pronounced and what it even means.
And a bunch of losers were hating because he didn't know what spontaneity or spontaneous meant.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneity. The condition of being spontaneous. Spontaneity. False. What does that mean?
Dichotomy.
The second channel where Kai documents habits, lifting, learning to articulate himself better. Instead of seeing that as a grown man identifying a weakness and trying to fix it, a loud segment of the internet treated it like comedy. People clipped him mispronouncing words. People mocked him for looking up definitions. People acted like learning publicly was embarrassing. And this is where FameFeed draws a hard line. He does not just lightly disagree with that reaction. He condemns it. He compares it to mocking someone for going to the gym. He frames it as loser behavior. And this is one of the rare moments where his sarcasm drops and his position becomes clear. Growth is not cringe. Pretending you do not need growth is that distinction matters because it separates criticism from cruelty. FameFeed is fine with criticizing marketing. He is fine with questioning motives. He is fine with roasting presentation. But attacking someone for actively trying to better themselves crosses into something else entirely. And that is why he repeatedly emphasizes that if you do not know a word, you look it up. That is how learning works. There is nothing funny about it. The fact that people treat knowledge-seeking as weakness says more about them than about Kai. This is the moment where the commentary stops being about one creator and starts being about internet culture itself. Of course, that does not mean FameFeed suddenly becomes a cheerleader. He swings back into skepticism almost immediately. He jokes about Kai never finishing a book before. He compares the situation to other celebrities who suddenly discover reading when it fits their brand. He keeps the tone grounded by reminding viewers that public self-improvement is still public performance. And this is where his perspective becomes balanced instead of emotional. He does not deny that Kai wants to grow. He just refuses to pretend that growth and branding are separate things in the creator economy. That balance becomes even clearer when he zooms out and talks about Kai's broader impact on streaming culture. He does not frame Kai as a villain, but he does not pretend the influence was harmless. He argues that Kai helped create an era of content that is loud, chaotic, and optimized for shock, especially among younger audiences, and he suggests that the long-term effects of that style will be studied later. This matters matters because it reframes the current situation. Kai stepping back is not just about personal growth. It is about the weight of being a cultural force and realizing that what you created might be bigger than you intended. That is not an excuse. It is context. Then comes the part that makes people uncomfortable. The money conversation. FameFeed points out how the timeline looks from the outside. Hit milestones, build massive audience. Step away, return with a brand. Monetize again. He jokes about it being a finesse. He jokes about it being a heist. But underneath the jokes is a real observation. This is a familiar pattern. It does not mean it is evil. It means it is strategic. And the reason people argue so much about it is because they want creators to be either pure artists or pure businessmen, when in reality, they are always both. Where FameFeed really starts mocking the discourse is in how reaction channels handle it. Some treat the video like a spiritual awakening, the most inspiring piece of content ever made, the future of humanity. And FameFeed's response is simple: calm down. It is still an ad, a well-produced ad, an emotional ad, but an ad nonetheless. That does not make it worthless, it just makes it what it is. And pretending otherwise is just another form of dishonesty, even if it comes wrapped in praise. He also highlights how selective empathy can be online. People suddenly analyze Kai's mental state like they are professionals. He mentions Kai saying he is not depressed, just overthinking. And while FameFeed pokes fun at the dramatic framing, he does not dismiss it entirely. He understands that stepping away from a successful lane creates anxiety, especially when millions of people expect you to stay the same forever. That pressure is real, even if the presentation is exaggerated for effect. The brand itself becomes another point of contention. The name, the website, the journal concept, the claims people make about how big it will be. FameFeed mocks the extreme glazing, especially comparisons to legendary designers. He treats those takes as unserious. But again, his criticism is aimed at the reaction, not the attempt. He does not say the brand will fail. He says people need to stop projecting impossible narratives onto it before it even launches. The reaction loop keeps expanding. Other creators react. Some troll, some defend, some downplay. FameFeed references this cycle to show how quickly the original message gets lost. What started as a personal explanation turns into a meme, then a debate, then a content farm. And through all of it, the same misunderstanding keeps repeating. Kai did not quit streaming forever. He quit an old way of operating. Even RiceGum, not exactly a model of nuance, manages to summarize it correctly. I quit means I quit the old way. That line alone collapses half the outrage if people actually listen. XQC's response also mattered.
What getting cheated on does to a dude.
In the 19th century,
Nobody wanna buy his trash upload.
Stop. Promotion is everything. I'm not holding back. I'm not holding back. Yo, when people want to say they want to do something, I think off the rip, I think you're wrong if you're automatically gonna be, oh, and you try to limit what people can do and cannot do. I think you're always gonna be wrong doing that.
Because it reinforces a simple principle. Limiting what people can try is always wrong. Even if you think the merch is bad, even if you think the pivot will fail, discouraging the attempt itself is lazy thinking. And that is the consistent moral thread in FameFeed's commentary. Be skeptical, be critical, but do not be small-minded. By the time FameFeed wraps up, his position is clear even if he never states it directly. The title was clickbait, the rollout was strategic, the emotions were real, the branding was intentional, the self-improvement is valid, the overreaction is embarrassing, and the truth sits in the middle of all of it. You can question the merch without mocking the growth. You can laugh at the dramatics without denying the effort. You can acknowledge that this is marketing while still respecting the courage it takes to step away from something that made you powerful. My own view aligns with that middle ground. Kai did not abandon his audience. He challenged their expectations. He did not quit streaming out of weakness. He stepped back out of curiosity. But he also knew exactly what the title would do. He knew it would force a conversation. And in the creator economy, forcing a conversation is often the only way to be heard when you are trying to change direction. The problem is not that Kai changed. The problem is that the internet demands permanence from people who are still figuring themselves out. And until that changes, every pivot will look like betrayal, every break will look like failure, and every attempt at growth will be turned into content before it is understood.